I'm Jeremy McMullin, and I'm one of the paleontologists here at the University of Nebraska State Museum. And today I'm going to show you how to make your very own replica fossils at home. So right now I'm in the vertebrate paleontology prep lab, the visible lab here at Morrill Hall. And here is where we bring all the fossils that we find in the field to be cleaned, stabilized, and repaired before we add them to our collection or put them on display. So you might have seen us working here if you visited Morrill Hall in the last couple of years. If not, now's the perfect time. We're not too crowded. We're doing regular cleanings, and we're open Wednesday through Sunday. So if you want to visit, check us out at museum.unl.edu and get your tickets and check our hours. So we'd love to see you. So in addition to preparing fossils, removing the rock and cleaning them, like I said, another thing we like to do is molding and casting, or making replica fossils from the real ones. And there are a couple of reasons why we would do this. Say, for example, if we wanted to put a specimen on display that was pretty unique or was a little bit fragile, we wouldn't want to risk damaging it by mounting it or just in transport. So we might make a mold and a cast or a replica that we can put on display that looks exactly the same as the real thing, and the real fossil stays safe in our collection. Another reason might be if we had a researcher from a different state or country that wanted to look at our fossils, we could send him a replica instead of sending him the real thing, and then they could study that in their research instead of risking damaging the one-of-a-kind fossils that we have in our collection. So you might be asking, how do we do this? What's the process entail? So I have here a finished mold of what we would do here in the lab using rubber. So what we'll do is to take a fossil like this ground sloth claw, we would embed it in clay about halfway up, and then build little clay walls around it and pour the rubber over top of the fossil so that it gets in all the nooks and crannies and records all the detail of all the important things on the fossil. So once that hardens up or sets up, we can flip the whole thing over and then do the other side, and then by the end we'll have a completed mold. We'll have it together and pull it apart, and you can see all the details that this mold has recorded from the real fossil. So it's pretty amazing the level of quality that you can get out of some of these molds. Like I said before, if a researcher wanted to study these, we could send them the cast, and it would be good enough quality that they could do their scientific research on those. So as you can see, we can have our cast look almost exactly like the real fossil, and we can make them out of plastic or plaster, like I'm going to show you today. Here at the lab, sometimes we use special plastics that give really high definition. We can usually make a few, maybe up to 10 research quality mold or casts out of these molds. But after that, we could still produce really great molds or really great casts out of these molds until it falls apart, either by tearing apart or just deforming after maybe hundreds of uses. So for today, if you guys want to participate, you can do that, and we'll show you how to make a replica fossil of your own. So the first step is going to be to get a mold of your own. So the high quality rubbers that we use are going to be too expensive and a little too toxic. You'll need a proper ventilation to use those, but you can find cheaper options online. I found this guy on Amazon for about $8, and it's got a few different cool fossils in there that you can make cool replicas out of. So if you find that, that'll be the first step. And then the other thing you'll need is plaster of Paris, and you can find that at either like Walmart or a home improvement store or any sort of craft store for like $5 or $10. So this activity is not going to be too expensive, and you can get a lot of cool things out of it. So so the whole process, step one, you'll want to find a flat surface to put your mold on. If it's not flat, obviously it's more easy to spill the liquid plaster after you've mixed it up. Another reason is the bottom of your casts you're going to want them to be flat, so once you flip them over, they're going to sit flat and be nicer that way. So you're going to want to find a flat surface, and then the next step will be to get a container that you're going to mix your plaster in. So we have these little cups in the lab, but at home, if you want to use like a yogurt container, Cool Whip, or sour cream container that you've washed out, or maybe some old Tupperware that you're not going to use anymore, you could ask your parents about that one. But yeah, just get one of those, and you'll want to fill it up with as much water as you're going to need. So the general guideline is going to be 1 part water to 2 parts plaster. So if you have about half a cup of water, you're going to need 1 cup of plaster to get the right consistency. If it's too thin, the mold is just going to take too long to set up, and it might not even set up if you have too much water in it. If it's too thick, it might not pour very well, and you'll lose details on your cast, or your cast just won't look very good. So you want to stick to that 1 part water to 2 parts plaster ratio. And so I've already got mine poured out, about half a cup of water there, and I've got my plaster as well. So what I'm going to do is just sprinkle the plaster in. And so I like to go pretty slow. You could think of this similarly to if you're baking cookies or a cake. If you put all the flour in all at once, it's just going to be really hard to stir and get all the lumps out and get a nice batter. So that's kind of what we're doing here, is making a batter. You can see if you go slow, it lets the water absorb the plaster more easily. And if you just keep pouring it slowly, eventually you should get what I like to call a little island forming. Let's see. So by the end, some of the plaster should stay above the water line. And then that's kind of the indication that you want to get the right consistency of your plaster mixture. So then you'll need to mix it up. I like to use these tongue depressors, or some sort of like popsicle stick you could use. You can also use your hands. I've done that tons of times in the field. It's pretty fun, the feeling of the plaster in your hands. Kind of messy, but might be worth a try. So again, you're just going to want to mix it up, like I said before, and try and get all the big lumps out so that you don't have air pockets in your cast, and so that it'll look good and pour easily. So just mix it around like that, and once it gets to being about a heavy, or kind of like a heavy cream, that's what you're going to want to look for. So you can add a little water or a little plaster if you think it's too thin or too thick, to get it to the right consistency. So after that, you're going to want to pour your plaster mixture into the mold. Again, go slow so you don't spill it everywhere, and you also want to record all the details on the mold so you get a good looking finished product. And I like to fill it up right to the top, maybe a little underneath the top. That way you'll get all the definition that you need out of the cast. And another reason, if you go over the top, obviously you're going to spill, but you'll end up like with a cast that looks like this. So this is what you're going to want to look for in a good cast. This one, I overflowed it on purpose to show you, but you'll get all this extra plaster that you could try to break off, but it could end up being sharp, and it just doesn't look good, doesn't give you any extra information about the fossil. So, we'll fill up all these guys. And this guy sits a little uneven, but it's okay. And so once you have the plaster poured, there's really nothing left to do but wait for it to set up. So the mold that I have here usually takes about a couple hours to fully set up. If you feel the plaster throughout the waiting period, you'll feel that it's a little bit warm. And so that's because the plaster molecules are interacting with the water molecules and releasing heat in what we call an exothermic reaction. And so if you feel it and it's warm, that means the reaction's not quite done. If you pull it before it's cooled or room temperature, it could be just a little bit easier to deform or break. It'll probably be okay, but it's just better to wait. And so once you've got one of them set up, I poured this guy earlier. What you're going to want to do is just pop it out. So take your fingers, take your hands right underneath the mold, and just apply light pressure underneath. and the fossil or the cast should break free pretty easily. If it doesn't, you'll just want to keep working your hands around, applying light pressure all the way around it, just so you can get it to pop free pretty easily. So once you do that, you'll have your very own replica fossil, looking something like that. So here at the museum, we like to paint our replica fossils to look like the real thing, like you saw before with this ground sloth claw. We layer on different shades of browns, blacks, oranges, yellows, colors like that to make it look realistic, so that you guys know if we put something on display what the real thing looks like. So it's your choice what you want to do with it, how you want to paint it. I have some examples over here that I did earlier. So you could take your finished casts, you could paint them realistically using those different shades of browns and oranges. I used some grays, oranges on that one, grays and blacks too, and just keep layering them up until the cast has different shades all throughout it, making it look more realistic. Or you can just have fun with it, paint it with polka dots or stripes. Green and gold, that's probably one of the best color combinations in my opinion. Paint it all the colors of the rainbow, or just have fun with it. So again, I really enjoyed making these fossil casts with you, and I hope you enjoy participating too, making them with your friends, grandparents, parents, siblings. We'd really enjoy seeing your finished product. So add it to the comments of this video if you want to send us a picture of your finished cast, or just contact us on social media and let us know how it worked out. So again, we'd love to see you in person and visiting the museum. We're open Wednesday through Sunday, and you can check our hours and get your tickets online at museum.unl.edu. All right, I hope to see you again.